Hey guys, this is Manoj, and in this video I'll be explaining how to take notes with an example of a topic called Stribeck Curve. So if you guys have not subscribed to my YouTube channel Tribo Geek, do subscribe. And now let's start. Let's understand the Stribeck Curve. So Stribeck Curve is one of the most important part of tribology. So what is the importance of this Stribeck Curve in tribology? This Stribeck Curve helps us to understand the regimes of lubrication. So what is Stribeck Curve? Stribeck Curve is basically a curve between the coefficient of friction and bearing number. So in the x-axis there is a bearing number and in the y-axis there is a coefficient of friction, and this curve indicates the regimes of lubrication, which is nothing but boundary lubrication, mixed lubrication and hydrodynamic lubrication. So the entire Stribeck curve helps us to understand in which part of interface between the two bodies where does this type of lubrication acts. So the Stribeck curve is a good indicator for the strategy of friction reduction and lubrication performance improvement. Stribeck curve also helps us to understand the three regimes of lubrication. So what is coefficient of friction? Coefficient of friction is one of the property which helps us to understand the friction between the two materials. So if there is an increase in the coefficient of friction, then what happens? There will be increase in the wear rate. So if there is increase in the wear rate, that means there is a poor property between the interface of the two bodies. So this coefficient of friction should always be less in order to gain the wear properties more. Like that is, if you have to improve the wear property, that means the coefficient of friction should be less. So what is bearing number? Bearing number is nothing but the product of lubricant viscosity and sliding speed per unit load. So this bearing number helps us to understand what type of lubrication we have to use and which properties of lubrication, if you increase or decrease, how coefficient of friction will react to that particular property. See, in this first point we can see that the coefficient of friction is in very high. Why? Because the lubricant viscosity is low. Similarly, the sliding speed is low. So at that particular point we can see that is boundary lubrication. So let us understand types of lubrication and then see the curve so that we can understand in a better way. So types of lubrication. Boundary lubrication. This is a condition in which the lubricant film becomes too thin to provide total separation. Yes. So when there is two bodies which are in contact, the interface between the two bodies, there will be the lubricant present, but it will be very thin in order to separate them. So what happens? The coefficient of friction will be very high. So you can see in the graph that the coefficient of friction is high, and that at that particular point there is a boundary lubrication. So this is due to the excessive loads or speeds or change in the fluid characteristics. So when does this boundary lubrication take place? When there is excessive load, speeds or change in the fluid characteristics. This is boundary lubrication. So mixed lubrication. Before saying mixed film lubrication, let us see what is hydrodynamic lubrication. So this is a condition in which lubricant separates two bodies. That is, a factor affecting the hydrodynamic lubrication includes lubricant viscosity, rotational speed or RPM and oil supply. So what is this hydrodynamic lubrication? Hydrodynamic lubrication is a lubrication in which there is in the interface between the two bodies there is a separation between the two bodies due to the lubricant present. So in this part what happens is the coefficient of friction is very less. So, and if the coefficient of friction is less, then the wear rate also will be less. So lubricant helps us helps to improve the properties of that two bodies which are in the contact between each other. So this hydrodynamic lubrication and boundary lubrication constitute mixed lubrication. So what is mixed film lubrication? Mixed film lubrication is a condition in which the occasional asperity contact occurs. This is due to the lubricant breakdown or increase in the load placed upon the lubricant. See, in this diagram we can see that the mixed lubrication is nothing but there is a separation between the two bodies at the interface due to the lubricant, but also at some particular points where there is high load or due to the failure of that particular lubricant, so there is a contact between two asperities. At that point of time, mixed lubrication comes into play. So these are the three types of lubrication or lubrication regimes which are shown in the Stribeck curve. So this Stribeck curve helps us to understand three types of lubrication regimes. So what is the importance of Stribeck curve? So Stribeck curve helps us to understand the three ways to improve the lubrication. So what is the first way? Reducing the boundary friction by improving the boundary film performance by utilizing the low friction material, surface coatings and lubricant additives. So see, whenever we talk about the boundary lubrication takes place when there is a start of movement in the two bodies which are in contact with each other. So at that particular point, what happens? We have to utilize some low friction materials or surface coatings. Yes, the interface of that particular two bodies are there. No? So yeah, at that particular point, if we coat that surface by any of the metals or any of the MOS2, etc., what happens? That coating will act as a lubricant, and that helps in improving the wear properties and also reduction of the wear, and which helps in decreasing the coefficient of friction. So, and also you can add the additives to the lubricants. Also, second point is reducing the surface contact area by optimization of the operation conditions and surface finish. But this is nothing but texturing the surface of the bodies which are in contact, which that is the interface of that particular two bodies. So what happens is, if you do some textures, it may be parallel textures or perpendicular textures. If you texture those bodies, what happens is there will be a surface contact between the two bodies will increase, and there will be movement of the lubricant in that particular textures, which will increase the thickness of the oil film and which will decrease the coefficient of friction. So this helps in the wear rate decrease. So, reduction of the hydrodynamic friction by improving the lubricant rheological properties and surface topographic design. We saw about surface topographic design, which is nothing but texturing, and in the rheological properties, by adding additives to the lubricant, we can increase the lubricant viscosity, where if we increase the lubricant viscosity, what happens? The oil film thickness increases. If the oil film thickness increases, that means there is hydrodynamic lubrication, and if there is hydrodynamic lubrication, then there is a decrease in the coefficient of friction. If the coefficient of friction decreases, then there is an increase in the wear property of that particular material. So this Stribeck curve helps you to understand the three regimes of lubrication, and also how the wear rate can be increased for any of the material by increasing the lubrication and the types of lubrication and regimes of the lubrication. So this is about Stribeck curve. So in this airflow sheet, I have just explained about the Stribeck curve and what is the importance of the Stribeck curve. So you can see that when you are making any notes, you have to first explain what is that particular topic which you are explaining. So I have explained here in the Stribeck what is Stribeck curve, and I have represented the curve over here, and what is the importance of that particular Stribeck curve I have explained here, and also what is the types of lubrication I have explained with the help of the diagrams. So this is how you will take a very good notes. So I hope you guys understood how to take notes with an example of Stribeck curve, and also what all points you have to include for any topic while you take notes. And in this video, I've explained particularly about Stribeck curve, and also if you guys have not subscribed to my YouTube channel Tribo Geek, do subscribe. I'll be making many more videos on different topics. So stay tuned.